They need to turn their lives around. Criminologists will break them down into three primary areas at the top of the food chain. Attitudes, which is how you think, associations, which is who you spend your time with, and then sort of coming out of the attitudes list is what we call impulsivity, how you make decisions, right? Thinking something through, thinking through the consequences. Because most of us who've been arrested, bless you, most of us who've been arrested weren't thinking through the consequences. We were acting impulsively. A lot of people act impulsively. You act impulsively, right? That's why you go to the store to buy one thing. Am I in your shopping cart? You go to the store to buy one thing and you come home with three. Right? Because on your way, and don't shop hungry. You come home with all kinds of stuff that you're going to throw out in a week. That's impulsivity. And one of the things we know about behaviors that have been criminalized is that a lot of them reflect impulsivity and not thinking things through. And the beauty of you as a faith congregation, a faith community, is that we have things that are part of who we already are that address these three criminogenic needs. People need attitude adjustment. We have a biblical worldview. We have a way of thinking about how one functions in the world. People need new relationships. We believe in fellowship. And we believe in accountability. People need to deal with their impulsivity. We believe in discipline, in spiritual discipline, in thinking things through. I loved my time yesterday with the Friends meeting because I watched discipline in action. Because I'm sitting there saying, make a decision, make a decision, make a decision. They said, we have to discern. And that's it. Because they're thinking it through. Better to think it through in terms of how my church can respond than to jump in with both feet and then fizz out. I know I'm mixing my metaphors, but you all know we all thought great ideas and we win, and then it just died. Because we didn't think through. We didn't count the cost. So we're all guilty of acting impulsively. And there are impulsive behaviors for which today you will be incarcerated. Christine Null, I said Nancy, here's Christine Null, criminologist based here in Pennsylvania, out in Camp Hill. She surveyed men who are coming home from prison, the state prison system here, and asked them, what's the most important thing you need when you get home? 94% of them said, I need a job. A year later, she went back to the same cohort and interviewed them, the ones that were still home, and she asked them, what kept you home? And 2/3 of them, almost 2/3, 64% said family and friends. It wasn't the job that kept them home. It was the quality of relationships into which they stepped when they came out of the door. You have the capacity, we have the capacity to do that. So building relationships becomes critical. And building relationships is so important that you have to look at the things that go into relationships in order to get invested in this work. It's not just about helping, right? Everybody wants to help. Can I help you? But that's the third question. That's the third question that you have to that gets asked of you. That gets asked of you. You know why? Because people help who don't care. Have you ever been helped by someone who really doesn't care about you? They just help, right? It's a guy standing out in front of the 7-Eleven. Yo, man, you got $1 here. I don't really care about you. I just want you to leave me alone. See, y'all are all saints, right? Me, back on planet Earth, there's people I just get $1, just go away. My Jamaican, I think, wait, here, take the $1. Here's an example from a church I used to pastor. We had a food pantry. We used to feed people every Wednesday. It was a rotating food pantry. We had a hot meal. We really didn't care about them. And I found that out the hard way because one of the members came upstairs and said, Pastor, we got a problem downstairs. What's the problem? They said, we have a rule, you can only eat once. I said, yeah, we want to maximize how many people we can feed. He said, well, people are eating twice. I said, they're breaking the rule. That's wrong. He said, no, Pastor, it's worse than that. He said, what they do is they come downstairs and eat, then they go outside and change clothes with each other and come back downstairs. I said, so they're getting over on us, they're playing us. He said, Pastor, you still don't get it. If you and I switched clothes and went downstairs, everybody would know who's who. The only reason they can fool us is we don't know who we're serving. We have no relationships. We're just putting meals on the plate and then feeling good about ourselves because we fed hungry people. We don't care about them. We don't know their names. We don't know their stories. We don't know anything about them. All we know is that at the end of the day, at 2 o'clock on Wednesday, we fed 200 people, and we're so proud of ourselves. Reverend Eugene Rivers calls that self-referential altruism. So the person who's coming home, their first question is, can I trust you? Can we build a relationship here? Because if I can't trust you, if you don't care about me, then when you try to help me, I'm going to play you. Because I got all kinds of folks saying they were going to help me, and they didn't. Or they did it because they didn't care, they just were trying to feel good about themselves, and I can pick that up. I've been on the street long enough to know, or I've been in the community long enough to know when somebody really cares, so I'm playing you. So a young man in Macon, Georgia, who really doesn't care, he's just trying to do the right thing, and you know, he wants to help. A guy comes home from prison, and he says to him, listen man, I need a car to go out and look for jobs. And so he says, well, I got 2 cars, you can have one of them to use, and the guy takes the car down to the good, he sells the car and buys drugs. And the good church guy says, I'll never do this again. Why not? Because he played me. Yes, he did. You know why he played you? Because you hadn't built a relationship with him. And he knew that, and he took advantage of it. Doesn't make what the guy did right, but the fact of the matter is, we don't want to get that close. I was working with a pastor in Detroit, and I asked him, do you have a reentry ministry? He said, no. I said, really? He said, no, we don't have a reentry ministry. And then he spent the next 20 minutes telling me what they do for people when they come home from prison. And then he said, I guess we do have a reentry ministry. He said, no, you don't. Keep it that way. He said, why? I said, because you're doing it because it's what you do. You're not doing it because it's a silo. It's a department. It's somebody's job. You're doing it because the DNA, the culture of your congregation says, this is what we do. You build relationships. You talk with folks. And as we talked together, he closed our conversation by saying something very interesting. He said, you know what I've discovered in the time I've worked with these guys coming back home? He said, they don't all make it. And it hurts. But one of the things I've discovered is that if you're not close enough to be hurt, it's not ministry. If you're not close enough to be hurt, it's not ministry. It hurt Jesus to do ministry, all the way to the crucifixion. And so, taking the risk that's required for building relationships, that for making sure that people understand that we care, it's a risk. We don't always win, but we do a lot better when we're building relationships and we're understanding people in the work that we're doing.